Brando meows like a cat, and he just goes, meow!
Hi, I'm Sally Hosaini.
And I'm James Krishna Floyd, and these are our film firsts with BAFTA. The first memory I have of seeing a film is the masterpiece Robin Hood, the Disney version, and it had a really famous song, Robin Hood and Little Johnny running through the forest, running away. Absolute masterpiece. I've actually seen that about 10 to 15 times since then. Seriously, it's a good film.
The first film I ever saw was E.T., and it was in an outdoor cinema in Mardi in Cairo, Egypt. I've seen E.T. maybe just a couple of times, not that many actually, but cinema wasn't really a big thing because there was Egyptian TV, it was all in Arabic, and so that was an English language film that came to our neighborhood, so it was a big event.
I know what your answer is.
What?
Oh. James.
Oh, yeah. So I was really obsessed with Twin Peaks TV series. That was a big obsession, but actually the first thing that popped in my mind, I must confess, was Dirty Dancing, because I was also really obsessed with that when I was like a young teenage girl. I watched that too many times.
That movie was good, yeah? But I'm not gonna lie, the bit where he just suddenly pulls that massive post out of the ground is ridiculous. He turns to the Hulk. I remember watching it with like my girlfriend at the time. I was like, what? Is that, yeah. But it's just a cool movie. It's a sexy movie, isn't it? It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the question?
What was the first TV show or film that you were obsessed with?
Obsessed with? Probably The Simpsons. One of the greatest pieces of television ever. I think I was so young when I first started watching it that I wasn't thinking about cinematic references.
Well, maybe the cinematic references came later.
They
and
came
you're like,
later.
That was from The Simpsons.
And I think also watching it more now with my son, hopefully, I think I'm gonna get even more of the references because it's still going. But that is a really good point, actually. Funnily enough, actually, what's interesting about The Simpsons, people don't know, is that it is actually quite cinematic because the way, if you look at it, the way they frame things is actually really smart. They do use things like the rule of thirds and all these. It's not like just random, you know, kind of scrambly blocking. They actually do block it out quite well. Genius. The first film that I saw at a young age, I definitely shouldn't have seen was It, and it scared the out of me. And I always remember the sewer scene. I can't even talk about it. It's too much. It's like, and I watched it with my brother who has a phobia of clowns. Unbelievable.
The Exorcist.
Hey.
That was memorable. I was probably 8 or 9. I was 8 or 9 when I saw that.
That's too young.
I saw all of it. I mean, I remember the vomit, of course. Everybody remembers the vomit. But yes, it was quite terrifying. Jaws was pretty scary too, though. Jaws, when I saw that, I was really scared, actually, thinking about fear. I think I might have been more scared of Jaws than I was The Exorcist, actually, because The Exorcist stuck in my brain as like the first horror I'd seen. But Jaws, in lots of ways, was more scary, and we were allowed to watch that, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
You know, I was probably about 7, showing my age now. But yeah, that was scary because the music would start, and then you'd think, here it comes.
It's that dolly zoom, isn't it, though? That's the killer. Do you know what's crazy? Is we actually have, in our film Unicorns, we have a shot that is slightly inspired by that, but in a romantic context. Isn't that nice? See? We're making horror into love. That's what we're doing. There is one moment in cinema that has, for some reason, always stuck with me. And it's in Streetcar Named Desire. And it's how Marlon Brando meows like a cat. It's such a good moment because it's like, you know that's not in the script, right?
Yeah, that's him.
It's him, but I love how the Elia Kazan, the director, left it into, and it literally says all you need to know about the moment and the character in just a moment. He just goes like that, and it's really like whoa. And I think that the reaction of the other actors was really genuine too. But I think for me again, like I love behaviour. You know, whether it's in a comedy or a drama.
Unexpected things.
Exactly. I mean, you know. I probably shouldn't say this as a writer and a director, but you know, the script is not always the most important thing. It's the atmosphere that you can create on the set, and hopefully allow an actor or anyone who's working on that set to do something that's unexpected but emotionally true. It makes sense.
The film that I saw that made me want to start directing was, without a doubt, The Unbelievable Truth by Hal Hartley. I watched that film and I was so taken with the story, the characters, the script, the way it was funny and about so much more, the themes, the quirkiness of it. And I suddenly realized that a film I had seen years before was also made by Hal Hartley, Simple Men, and that had really stayed in my head. And so that made me then go and discover Hal Hartley, and it was without a doubt his screenplays and his writing especially that made me want to make films. And I remember liking the film so much that I sat down and wrote out all the dialogue to some of the films by hand.
Nice. I haven't seen that film. It sounds
I'm sure
good.
I've made you watch it.
No, we watched the one about the boat, get off the boat.
Yeah, that's simple. Yeah,
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. For me, two films really, because I'm an actor as well. Initially, it was On the Waterfront, Elia Kazan. It was the first time I was like, whoa, this is not acting on screen. This is just people. It's just behavior. But the thing that really, I think, sealed the deal for me was Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. I saw that in a special screening in Finchley, and I was just blown away by it. It's one of the rare times where a director has achieved almost every kind of mood of every genre in one film, and I believe it works. It's for kids, it's for adults, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's scary but also lighthearted, it's cerebral but silly. You know, it's all of these things, and I still watch it to this day every sort of couple of years, and I think for me an extraordinary film.
I can't actually remember the first thing I wrote and directed, and that's probably because I have this amazing capacity of deleting the hard drive and moving on and being in the present moment, which is great because I don't hold a grudge. You know, everybody that I've fallen out with, I love you.
So you've forgotten the fact that we just made a movie together?
Did we?
No, we didn't. It was just me. The first thing I can remember writing was a short play. It was about a boy who was very unhappy, and he ended up discovering what the birds and the bees are through an imaginary friend who was green and had really, really big purple eyes. I think it was something I wrote at school, probably for like, I don't know if it was a drama assignment or an English assignment, but must have been drama because it was a play. Yeah, short play. It was terrible.
Yeah, actually, now that you're remembering school stuff.
Tough crowd.
It was weird, okay? What do you want me to say? Just move on. There were green people, okay?
Try my hardest.
No, I used to like writing a lot of poems and poetry. So that was, but directing, it was theatre stuff.
Of course, John Sickle.
Yeah. So actually, which was the first
Did you direct
play?
some of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think technically I was an assistant director, but basically directed it.
Take it.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was some theatre plays actually.
It's always theatre, isn't it? Like, often theatre is kind of people's way in this country, I think, unless you have a lot of sort of financial comfort behind you, or you whatever, get lucky and make a short film. But generally, I think it's theatre.
Yeah, technically I wasn't the director, but he never was there, so I blocked the whole play, held all the rehearsals.
Sounds like a lot of films I've been in, actually.
Actors.
Technically, he's the director. He's not here, but he technically is the director. Sounds like a few Oscar-winning films here.
No, but I did everything.
Yeah,
I did, really. That's the way it was.
I believe it.
Oh, gosh. All films reduce me to tears. I cry at everything, even not sad things. I cry at the happy ending. So I grew up watching a lot of Arabic TV, Egyptian TV, and what they used to play on TV in Egypt were the golden age of Egyptian cinema, musicals and movies that are all black and white melodramas. And they all have songs in them. They have heart-wrenching stories. You will always be laughing and crying in them. And that's ultimately what I watched. I didn't really have access to English language films in that way until, it was an event to see a film. And certainly when I'd come over to Wales in the summer holidays, then I'd go to the cinema for the first time. But it was those old black and white melodramas from the 30s, 40s and 50s. And they had plots like two twins separated at birth. One ends up with a rich family, one ends up as a beggar on the street, and then, you know, they end up meeting and realizing that they're identical, and it's then the one who's poor comes back, and like they all had these incredible stories, and you cry in everyone. Yes,
that's a good premise. That
there's a lot of you know those films.
Good twins premise.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
because twins premises are difficult to do. Yeah, that's a good one.
No, well, that golden age of cinema is really something to see, because it's there's a lot in there.
I'm like you. I cry a lot, probably too much. I think I have a memory of crying weirdly to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I know it sounds really weird, but I was really connected to Bob Hoskins' character.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, I can't figure out why, but I remember crying towards the end of that film. And I remember it taking me by surprise. I don't know how old I was, I couldn't have been that old. I just thought his performance was really, really good. He was a good actor, you know. I feel like he was the kind of Jimmy Stewart of the UK, you know, like he was very clear, you know, like you could really see his emotions in a very clear way. And you really went with him, the kind of everyman. But to be honest, the one that I absolutely bawled my eyes out to, I think a lot of people did, was Life is Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And I remember watching that at the cinema with my dad, and I remember crying in front of Dad and feeling really, really embarrassed, and then turning to him and he was crying too. And I was like, oh. But you know, that's a heck of a gut punch, that film, isn't it? No film like it, actually. If you think about it, there's hardly any films that have been like that, even though it's such a simple premise and so kind of obvious in a way.
First day on set of Unicorns, was it the pre-shoot day?
That's what I was thinking was, how do you define first day on the set?
Yeah, because even that is...
Exactly. So what do we go on? I mean...
I guess it was that filming before the filming had begun that we were doing.
I mean, technically, the first day...
As in day one?
Day one of official principal photography on Unicorns was in a council estate in Essex, and it was Ben lifting weights.
Yeah.
That was technically the first. And I always remember...
but the unofficial first?
The unofficial first day was...
when we were in the basement.
Yes.
And Aisha was doing her performance.
The camera test.
The camera test shoot day that we snuck in.
That was where we started talking as if it was the shoot.
Yeah.
And making decisions as if it was the shoot. But I do remember very specifically how I felt when we did that first take with Ben lifting these weights. And it's in the film, it's in the montage. It's a great, great moment. And I remember having such a relief because the first take was perfect.
Yeah.
And he did something that I wanted him to do, but I didn't mention it, and this is his experience as an actor, is that, so it's a top shot over here, and the camera, and so he's going like this, and I wanted him to take the dumbbells and just do it in the middle of the camera and cover his face. Yeah. It's a technical thing, but you want it to be natural. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know if it was intentional or not on his part.
We should ask him.
Yeah, well, he'll say it was intentional, of course he will. But I love the fact that he did that, and that was where okay, this movie's going to be fine. So the idea of Unicorns first came about because, you know, I've always felt very, very confused as to who I am. Like Sally, I'm mixed. I'm half Indian, half English. I really don't understand what my identity labels are when it comes to so many things: sexuality, race, culture, even class. I'm a mix of so many things, and my experiences are contradictory over time. And I feel like mainstream society is constantly trying to box me in too neatly, and I think it does it to all of us. And that was a feeling that I wanted to bottle up and put in my debut film. And it was around about the same time that I met this amazing person called Asifa Lahore, who at that time was the UK's only out South Asian drag queen. And I'd known about what's called the Gaysian scene, which is the South Asian queer scene, since I was young. I dipped my toes in it. I'd been to Club Carly and all these places, but I hadn't really got to the beating heart of the scene. And what I did was I basically contacted Asifa and said, look, I'm thinking about making a movie set in the Gaysian scene. I know it, but I don't know it like you do. Would you allow me in? And she said yes. Luckily, she had seen a film that actually Sally and I had done years ago, which was Sally's debut, that I acted in, called My Brother the Devil, and enjoyed it. But really, I think that's the inception of unicorns, is ultimately this idea of, a bit like a unicorn, it's we are all a mystery, and I think we should celebrate that. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing who you are, and I believe there's nothing wrong with not living your life as if you're a hashtag, because you can be one thing on a Friday, something can happen on a Saturday, and then on the Monday you're a completely different person. And that's really what Unicorns is about.